Welcome to this tutorial series about make.com and how to use the HTTP module. And in this particular video, we're going to look at how the webhook module works. Because if you look at this automation here, or this scenario that I have here, I have a bunch of HTTP modules for different levels of the scenario. So you're going to have to learn multiple different things in order to fully understand how the HTTP module works. For example, you need to understand Json. You need to understand what an API is. You need to understand how to make an HTTP request, as well as how to make an authenticated request, because sometimes you need to authenticate your request. And then we also need to look at response codes, because an HTTP module can deliver multiple different types of responses. Okay, and we're going to do that each in a separate video. So we're starting with the first one here, which is a webhook. Why am I using this webhook? Well, I'm using a webhook because I just love webhooks, and I think they are the best tool or the best module inside of make.com, because they allow you to make sure that you only run your automation when there's actually something to do. So when something triggers that automation, and it doesn't just wait for a given moment in time to happen. So here, for example, obviously in make.com, you can run an automation every minute, every 15 minutes, every hour, and so forth. But I want things to happen instantly. So the moment somebody, for example, entered data into a form, I want the information from that form to be transferred to me and run my automation based on it directly. So in order to achieve that, we need to understand webhooks. So therefore, let's go ahead and run our first webhook and understand how it works. Therefore, I'm gonna create a new scenario here. And here, I'm just going to select webhooks here. If you don't find it there, you can just enter webhooks here, and then it will show you the different options of webhooks there are. So there are triggers as well as actions. So the one that I want to specifically look at is going to be this webhook here. So this custom webhook instance. All right, this is the one. The cool thing is it triggers instantly when the webhook receives data. Okay, so let's select that. You also will see that you get this little lightning signal or symbol here on the left hand side, surrounded by the circle. And then you can create a webhook that will be specific for this make scenario or this automation. So I'm going to call this one webhook tutorial, like so. I'm going to call it like this. You can call it whatever you want. And then once you gave it a name, you can copy the address to clipboard and you can click on OK. So now I copied it to clipboard. That's important because what I want to show you is how to trigger this webhook. So now if I run this, it will wait for the data. So it will say here at the bottom left, waiting for data. So this webhook now is ready to be triggered. How can I trigger the webhook? Well, I can just go over to a new tab and I can paste the webhook URL that I got from creating this webhook. So I entered this URL in there. I'm going to press enter. And then what it will do is it will just say accepted. Okay, there we are. We get the details about accepted, and our automation also ran. So you can see that here it says that there was an output after this operation or of this operation. So you can click into this one up here and then it will show you the output. Now currently the output was empty because this webhook didn't receive any information. It was triggered, however, there was no data transmitted. How can we transmit data with a given webhook? Well, therefore, we can do the following. Let me show you how that works. We can take the URL that we got. So let's click into this one here, into this webhook, and let's make sure that we copy this URL, right? It's this entire URL. Now, obviously you can copy it like this, or you can just click on this button, copy address to clipboard. Okay, once you copied that, you can paste it into your URL tab here, or as a URL in here, and then you can add a question mark. And after that, you enter a variable name. Okay, let's say the variable name is going to be name. And I'm going to say name is equal to Dennis. Okay, I'm going to write it like this because that's my name, name equal Dennis. So let's run this automation once again. So we're going to say run once, and then let's press enter here, and our automation ran. It went very quickly this time, you see, and it says the output bundle was name : Dennis. So data was actually converted or used and now is available. All right, now you can go ahead and use any further automation in here. So you could just say, let's say you want to do something with ChatGPT. So you create a completion, you use your ChatGPT connection. If you don't know how to do that, check out my other videos. And then you just select any given model. So let's say I'm going to select the latest 4.0 model that I want to use. Well, there was an error. Let me just enter it again or click on OK and look into it again. And you will see that now it should work. And then we can go into using that variable that our webhook just got as the output. So the name, okay? So we can add this message. We can say it's a user message. And I'm gonna say that the text content should be, so the prompt that I give to ChatGPT, so to speak, is come up with childish jokes about this name, because you might have had this experience as a kid in school. Maybe you had a stupid name or last name, well, not stupid, but a last name that could be played around with and made stupid jokes about. And well, that's what happens to me. Dennis, if you pronounce it in German, you can come up with very stupid names, things around it. So I'm gonna just use the name that was given through the webhook, and I'm gonna run this once again. I'm going to enter the name again, and then it will trigger this automation, and it will do this OpenAI ChatGPT automation as well. So you see there is a little more data. So the input that we gave was come up with childish jokes about this name, Dennis. Okay, and the output, the result, so to speak, is here, sure thing, here are some lighthearted childish jokes about name Dennis. Why did Dennis bring a ladder to school? Because he heard the math test was over his head. Well, I probably don't understand many of the jokes. I was thinking about more of like jokes specifically about the name Dennis and not so much about generic jokes, but then is the best day ever. Yeah, so you see, it's not very funny, but for example, my last name is Panuta, and we have the suite in German, which is called Hanuta, and many kids were making a joke about that as well. So Panuta Hanuta, and I love Hanutas actually. Really tasty sweets. So now you got the idea how to use webhooks with data. Now there's one last thing to know, and that is what if you want to give more information. So not just one word, you could obviously have a bunch of other details. So what to do with so and so. Now the problem is empty spaces aren't really treated very well, but actually let's just try and see what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna pass this like so, and you see the name was given what to do with so and so. So that seemed to work, and it's tried to make some jokes about it as well. Usually you see once I entered this URL, an empty space is converted into %20. Okay, so that's the internal, the URL name for an empty space, so to speak. Okay, so let me show you how to use multiple variables. So you had the name, let's say Dennis, and then let's say you want to also store the age somewhere, and let's say I'm 36. So you use this ampersand sign, and then the second variable name, and then equals, and then whatever the value for that variable should be. Okay, so age should be 36, for example. Okay, so now let's say we run this again here. So run this automation, we enter this, and we will see that now it's not just the first variable, but it's also the second variable. So now we could, in this import here, in this OpenAI module or any other module that we're using, we could use both variables. Okay, so now let's look into it. And here you see, now we can use name as well as age. So in our particular case, we manually created these variables inside of the URL, right? But that's usually not what you would do. Usually you would use a tool that gives you this information, gives you certain variables. For example, Airtable is the one that I love to use in order to run webhooks, where, for example, the form is entered and all of the fields that were entered can be passed to the webhook so that it can then be used directly inside of my automation, just as an example. Okay, but that's it for this video. So in the next few videos, we're going to look at, well, first of all, JSON, then what an API is, then how to make a request and an auth request, and finally the response code. So make sure to subscribe and like this video, and also watch the next video, all right? So thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next one.